Today I want to talk about doing mediumship your way. I've run across several people who have teachers who insist or seem to insist that there is only one way or only one good way to do mediumship. And I completely disagree with that. I think we all have a natural inclination toward how we, at least initially, connect when we're first learning to do this. I like to make musical analogies. So many people in my family play the guitar. I've never been able to get a decent sound out of a guitar, even though it's not a very complicated instrument. However, I did end up being a very good harpist, and pedal harps are very complicated instruments. But where I was naturally inclined was toward a different instrument than most of my relatives. So if you are trying to do mediumship that is in a way that is against your natural inclination, I don't think you're going to do very well, at least not at first. And then, of course, you'll keep signing up for someone's classes if they're telling you that's the wrong way to do that, do it this way, especially if they've had great success doing it their way, if they're very well known or for being medium, or if they're just really good at what they do. So to flip that around, if I were teaching classes, which I don't at this time, but if I were, I consistently get father's side of the family on my right and mother's side on my left when I connect with someone in spirit. And if I had a student who got father's side on left, for example, and I said, no, that's the wrong way. There's only one way, and father's side is always on the right-hand side. They would fail, and then they keep signing up for more of my classes, which is financially good for me, but not necessarily the best thing for the student. So I know that the teachers that I'm thinking of, and I'm not going to name, have good intentions, but good intentions don't always yield good results. And because of my formal education, I have an MBA with a finance emphasis, and my formal work experience, I know that when there is a financial incentive to something, even if it can be unconscious, that's a red flag. That's something to consider in your decision making. So I've also been lucky enough to meet some world famous harpists. I'm not going to name them either, because if you don't play the harp, you're not going to know who they are. It's a fairly rare instrument. But I've audited several of their master classes. These various people, most of them are outstanding teachers as well as amazing musicians. One of them wasn't so good. I was surprised that their class I didn't think was very good. And it was surprising to see someone who was such an amazing musician not be able to convey that to a student. So just because someone's very good at something doesn't mean that their way of doing it is the best way, or that they're good at teaching other people how to do it at all. So there's that. So especially if you're so early on, you're looking for teachers or a teacher, I think initially you should find someone who works your way, who's similar to you. And if not, and you're with someone and you feel like you're getting some benefit from them, that's good. Even good strict teachers, though, can keep you from finding newer, better ways within yourself. For example, several months ago, I was putting numbers into a spreadsheet, and I realized, oh, I know numbers by touch, right? Because I don't have to look at numbers as I'm putting them in. So then I started putting my hand, when I was doing readings, I'd put my hand on an imaginary keypad, and if they kept hitting number 4, I would say April or the 4th of a month I know is relevant to this person. And that's consistently been a birth or a death of either the client or the person in spirit. So that whatever the month is. Now, though, very recently, I found my attention is just pulled to April, or my attention is just pulled to September, and I don't need the number pad. But I never would have found that way of conveying months of the year, for example, had I been sticking to some rigid formula that a teacher insisted on. So there's that. Now, a caveat to all this is that while I don't believe there's any right or wrong way in the mechanics of mediumship, how you connect, I do believe there are right and wrong ways of how you would convey the information and the wording that you use. And any reputable teacher can certainly help with that. So if you literally see like a movie in your head, a memory of a movie where someone puts a gun in their mouth and pulls the trigger, you wouldn't say, you understand this person blew their own head off. You would say this person caused their own passing. Any teacher can help with the wording and the presentation, any reputable teacher. So there's that. I have worked with several really well-known mediums. I got something good out of all of them. And some of them I just clicked with better than others. And they were not better mediums than others. They just their way of teaching or the way they organized the class, or there was just something about them that worked better for me. And if you're early in your development, I strongly recommend connecting with someone, just trying like a couple hour long class as opposed to something that lasts for several days or even months, and see how you feel you connect with them and what your comfort level is with them, and go with where you have comfort or where you have a connection. Don't make your decision on a teacher based on how good they are as a medium. Make it base it on how you feel about working with them, or how you feel about how you do mediumship versus how they do mediumship. That's the best recommendation I can give you, or the best advice. And I will also say, if you have a very narrow way of doing mediumship, like if everything you get is visual, everything, do that. Keep doing that until you find some footing, some comfort level where you can say, I'm a medium, this is how I do it. And then stretch in other ways. Then go with a teacher who's very different from yourself, someone who gets a lot of auditory stuff, or what I typically do is translate feelings into words. But I would say build a level of confidence in yourself first, and then try doing something that's very different from how you normally do it. Next week, I'm going to talk about doubt and how that still works into my mediumship. I think this happens to all of us. Fairly recently, I was in a platform demonstration. I connected with someone, it turned out to be the grandfather of someone in the audience, and she was so positive and saying, yes, 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 and this is amazing. And I was thinking, is she just humoring me? Am I just making this up? And I was aware of how ridiculous that was as I was having those thoughts, that doubt, even now, creeps in. It absolutely happens. So I'm going to talk about that. Until then, please leave your comments or questions below. I will try to do a video to answer them or to respond to them. And as always, thank you for watching, and see you next time.